Hey there everybody, how's it going? Steve back again with another video. This time we're doing the November 2020 Big Board Show for Season 10 of the Fantasy League. Now that the WWE Draft has come and gone, we can give you a little bit more accurate assessment on who is going to be scoring the most points during Season 10. We're going to get started with the title changes that happened in October 2020. Alright, as most of you should know by now, there's going to be 3 different categories during Season 10 of the Fantasy League. It's going to be the main roster, which will cover the men and women of Raw and SmackDown. It's going to be NXT, which will cover the men and women of NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live. And the announcers, doesn't matter what show they're on. Doesn't matter whether they're a ring announcer, a commentator, backstage interviewer, or on the pre-show panel, they're all lumped into one category. And we're going to start with the main roster. And right at number 1, the WWE Champion, Randy Orton. He defeated Drew McIntyre at Hell in a Cell to win the title. And since he is the main champion on the 3-hour show, got to give him the number 1 spot. And at number 2, we have Roman Reigns. He is the current Universal Champion on SmackDown. And as I'm probably going to do for the duration of these big board videos, you got to put the top 2 champions, 1 and 2. Roman Reigns, I don't see anybody taking that title from him anytime soon. So number 2, because he's on a 2-hour show, is a pretty solid spot for him. Number 3, we have Drew McIntyre. I believe he's going to be the main challenger for Randy Orton once they get through Survivor Series. Still see him in the title picture. No reason to pull him out of it. He was a pretty effective champion, and I would not be surprised to see him regain the title. At number 4, we have The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. I believe he is also going to be inserted into the WWE Championship picture. Not sure he needs the title, so I'm not sure if they're going to have him win it or not. I believe he's like old school Jake the Snake Roberts. His character didn't need a title. He was effective as he was. But they're still going to put him in the title picture, so putting him at number 4 is not a stretch. And at number 5, we have Daniel Bryan. If you saw the most recent episode of SmackDown, I believe what happened to him, getting decimated by Jey Uso, that's going to lead to him being in a program with Roman Reigns to challenge for the Universal Championship. So number 5 is a pretty good spot for Daniel Bryan. Now we're going to go over the top 5 women. And just like with the men, you got to put the 2 champions on top. And number 1 is going to be Asuka. She is the current Raw Women's Champion. I believe that I don't see anybody taking the title from her anytime soon. But she's got a lot of worthy challengers on Raw, so putting her at number 1 is a pretty good spot. At number 2, we have the SmackDown Women's Champion, Sasha Banks, who defeated Bayley at Hell in a Cell. So number 2 for the SmackDown Women's Champion, pretty good spot for her. And number 3 is Bayley, having just dropped the SmackDown Women's Championship to Sasha Banks. I believe they're nowhere near done with their program, and it could extend all the way past WrestleMania. So, number 3, solid position for Bayley. Number 4, we have one half of the Women's Tag Team Champions. That is Shayna Baszler. I believe eventually she is going to be Asuka's main challenger. So placing her ahead of her partner is probably a pretty good decision. And at number 5 is Shayna Baszler's Women's Tag Team Championship partner, Nia Jax. Once Shayna and Nia drop the Women's Tag Team Championship, I believe Nia is going to be the main obstacle for Shayna Baszler to get to Asuka. So number 5 is a pretty good spot for her. And that's your main roster category big board for November 2020. And now on to the NXT category. I'm going to give you the top 5 men and women from NXT and NXT UK. Starting with the men. At number 1, of course, the NXT champion, Finn Balor. Until somebody knocks him off the top of the mountain, gotta stick him on top of this list. At number 2, I have the new North American champion, Johnny Gargano. He defeated Damian Priest at Halloween Havoc to win the championship, and I believe he's going to have a couple of pretty good defenses before he drops it to whoever's next in line, but putting him at number 2 is pretty solid. At number 3, I have Kyle O'Reilly. I don't believe he's finished with Finn Balor by a long shot. He's also going to be involved in a program with Undisputed Era against this new faction that Pat McAfee's putting together. So they should be featured pretty prominently on NXT. At number 4, NXT UK champion Walter. If you saw the latest episode of NXT UK and his championship title defense against Ilya Dragunov, wow. That's all I can say. Every time he defends that championship, Ilya Dragunov, Tyler Bate, I'll even throw in the match he had with Joe Coffey. The man puts forward performances that are absolutely outstanding. I may be shortchanging him by putting him number 4, but since his show is only an hour long, and I don't believe there's an NXT UK takeover scheduled for season 10, number 4 might make him a 3B as opposed to Kyle O'Reilly's 3A, but he is very solid and needs to be on this list. And at number 5, I have the former North American champion, Damian Priest. Could they elevate him to an NXT championship? Maybe, but just in case he falls back into obscurity, which I believe would be a huge mistake, keeping him at number 5. And now the top 5 women. Number 1, NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai. What can you say that hasn't already been said? She is an absolutely outstanding worker. Her matches are always entertaining. And I don't see anybody knocking her off the top of the mountain anytime soon. At number 2, I have the person I believe is eventually going to knock off Io Shirai for the championship, and that is Rhea Ripley. Can't deny it, she's absolutely awesome in the ring. She can beat you up as well as wrestle you. And number 2, until she does win the title, I believe number 2 is where she belongs. At number 3, we have Ember Moon. She's recently returned from injury and gone back to NXT to reestablish her character. And if they can do the same thing for her that they did with Finn Balor, nothing but big things in her future. But she's got a few people she's going to have to knock off in order to get to the top spot. So number 3 is probably pretty solid for her at this point. Number 4, recently promoted to NXT proper from NXT UK, is Toni Storm. I believe she can give Io Shirai some fits. I believe they faced each other in the Mae Young Classic way back when, and if there's a solid contender for her championship who has defeated Io Shirai before, Toni Storm's got to be your girl. And at number 5, I have the NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee Ray. She recently defended her championship against Piper Niven, but got injured in the process. So I'm not sure how much she's going to be featured until she can heal what looks to be a serious knee injury. So number 5 is probably as high as she's going to go at this point. And that is your NXT Big Board for November 2020. And now it's on to the announcers. In the last Big Board show, I kind of shortchanged them. I only gave you 5 announcers, and now I'm going to expand it to 10. So that way more announcers have an opportunity to make the show. At number 1, we have Tom Phillips, the play-by-play announcer for Monday Night Raw. Number 2, Byron Saxton, one of the color commentators on Monday Night Raw. Not going to see Samoa Joe here because he is still a member of the main roster. Number 3, can't understand why this guy is still a play-by-play announcer because he says a lot of dumb things. But number 3 for me is Michael Cole, play-by-play announcer for SmackDown. At number 4, we have Corey Graves, color commentator for SmackDown. At number 5, we have Mike Rome. He's the ring announcer for Raw, but he also does ring announcing for Main Event, so that should give him a pretty good points boost as well. Number 6, Greg Hamilton. He's the ring announcer for SmackDown, but also for 205 Live. At number 7, we have Vic Joseph. There for season 10, he kind of took a hiatus. Wasn't being shown very much, but now he is the play-by-play announcer for NXT as well as 205 Live. And number 8, we have the new color commentator for NXT, Wade Barrett. At number 9, we have the ring announcer for NXT, Alicia Taylor. And rounding out the top 10 for the announcers, I have the other color commentator for NXT, which is Beth Phoenix. She's not going to be listed along with the other NXT commentators because she does her commentating via Zoom call, so you don't get to see her, so that's going to cost her appearance points. And that is your top 10 for the announcers category for November 2020. And now we're going to go on to the show big boards. This is where I will break down the top 5 talents on each regular show. You're going to hear a lot of the same names we've heard previously, so I won't go too in depth with them. But let's get started with Monday Night Raw. Alright, number 1, Randy Orton, WWE Champion. Got to place him at the top as long as he's the champion on Monday Night Raw. Number 2, we got Drew McIntyre. At number 3, we have The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. At number 4, I have placed the United States Champion, Bobby Lashley. The Hurt Business is in this thing with Retribution, so that should give him some exposure. At number 5, we have the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka. Now for SmackDown. At number 1, of course, Universal Champion Roman Reigns. At number 2, SmackDown Women's Champion, Sasha Banks. At number 3, we have Daniel Bryan. At number 4, we have former SmackDown Women's Champion, Bayley. And at number 5, I have current Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn. And now for NXT. Number 1, Finn Balor. Number 2, Io Shirai. Number 3, Johnny Gargano. Number 4, Kyle O'Reilly. And number 5, Rhea Ripley. NXT UK. Top spot is NXT UK champion Walter. At number 2, the guy who just had a phenomenal match with Walter. He failed to win the title, but what an effort he put forward. That was absolutely outstanding. It's Ilya Dragunov. Number 3, NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee Ray. At number 4, we have who I believe is going to be the number 1 contender to Kaylee Ray, and that is Jinny. And at number 5, we have the assistant to the general manager, Johnny Saint, and that is Sid Scala. And now for main event. Main event's kind of tricky. You never know who is going to be featured, but you can pretty much guarantee every week they're going to feature the top 2 champions. So I've put at number 1, Roman Reigns. At number 2, the play-by-play announcer for main event, Tom Phillips. At number 3, I have the color commentator for main event, that is Byron Saxton. At number 4, I have current WWE Champion Randy Orton. And rounding out the top 5 on main event is the ring announcer, Mike Rome. Now for 205 Live. Going with the interim Cruiserweight Champion Santos Escobar at number 1. At number 2, somebody who should take a title from either Santos Escobar or the actual Cruiserweight Championship from Jordan Devlin. I have placed at number 2, Kushida. At number 3, we have the aforementioned actual Cruiserweight Champion, Jordan Devlin. Number 3 is as high as he's going to go for me now until he can get back to the States to defend the proper Cruiserweight Championship or just drop it to whoever. At number 4, a constant thorn in the side of Santos Escobar, and that is Isaiah Swerve Scott. At number 5, former Cruiserweight Champion Tony Nese. And that is your show big boards for November 2020. So that about does it for the November 2020 Big Board Show for Season 10 of the Fantasy League. Let's take one more look at who we've placed on the big board. And until next time, this is Steve saying, see ya.